gentlemen, please join me in welcoming and put your hands together for Mr. Naveen Tewari, founder and CEO of InMobi and Glance.
Okay. Firstly, it's a very hard act to follow. Sudipta, I must tell you, I cannot, I don't know why you put me up at this slot. It's completely unfair. It's such a hard act to follow. Please give Kannan a big round of applause for setting this up. And it's a harder act to follow without a mic. Firstly, thank you for inviting me here. It's a great pleasure to be here. I'm going to talk about the story of InMobi. It's the story of its innovation and how we are leveraging AI in many things that we do. But one thing that cannot do is to replace a stand-up comedian. I can tell you that. It's quite hard to do that. But we will try and see what all it can try and replace. So, I have about 30 minutes. I'm going to try and give you a glimpse of what we are trying to do at InMobi, what we are trying to build, and how we are trying to do this. And so our story is largely about the fact that we are a company that prides itself on innovation. And for a company that's now completed 18 years, we have really lived a life where innovation is at the core of what we try to do. And therefore, we try to believe that innovation is part of the DNA and not necessarily a one-time principle. We'll try and show you a few of those things. Let me just give you a quick background on what we have built. I started the company, and my co-founder is also here somewhere. I don't see him right now. But I started the company, and we built InMobi, which is India's first unicorn, back in 2011, 2012, when we did not know what unicorn really meant. It became a phenomena because for the first time in our country, we created something with technology. It's an advertising platform. We are a big believer in the power of advertising. Advertising fundamentally keeps the internet free. And so our purpose has been, as we thought about this evolution of a new industry on mobile, was to keep the internet free, and that's what we innovated on. I did not understand that it's a $1 trillion business trying to keep the internet free, but that's the power of it. The second business we started was Glance about 5 years ago. And Glance is our foray into consumer platforms. So, we built B2B, we then built B2C. You clearly will not see a trend here. It is just what we feel like doing, we do. But in the B2C world, we are trying to disrupt the world of shopping, leveraging generative AI. We are trying to build the world's first AI shopping agent. We have created a foundation model for commerce, for shopping, and we are trying to take this globally. We'll see how that goes, but it's in early days. But we have been able to put this in front of close to about 400 million users already. So those are the two things we do. We are a consumer internet company with a strong belief in advertising. Our belief in advertising is so much that we think that if you think about the internet revolution, it all happened because of advertising, because it allowed it to be free and therefore be accessible to everybody. But as I think about the future of the world, with AI applications being the core of what each one of us will use, the reality is AI applications of the future will be subsidized via advertising. So what advertising today is roughly about 1% of the world's GDP. With the advent of AI, our expectation is that the advertising industry will reach about 2% of the world's GDP. And that's the way we think about it. So if you ever talk to us, you will realize we are a big believer in the industry. and the phenomena and the power of advertising. Uh, and therefore, the digital ad stack that we are part of is all about subsidizing consumption, access to technology, and a lot of these interesting things that the world sees. We started the company in 2008. It was an era when hardly there were startups. I still remember recruiting, and Kanan put me on the spot to ask for what would it take to join. The reality is, when we were trying to hire back in 2008 engineers, the biggest question that we would get towards the end of the conversation is like, will I be able to get married if I work for you? And the reason was that the father of no girl was willing to send their girl to a boy who worked for a startup because it was seemingly a place for unemployed people. That seems to have changed a little bit. So the way I solved for it was I called for a press conference. But there was no need for one, but I still called for one. And I kind of announced a lot of stuff. This is back in 2008. I announced for a lot of stuff, and Times of India and Economic Times, and a lot of them were up there. And they heard the story to say, oh, there is a startup. And they put us on front page. I quickly took about 100 newspapers that day, framed them, and handed over to my engineers so that they could get married. I think we moved from that era to a completely new era now that we live in. But we have done a lot of these things from an innovation perspective. We have really looked at entering global markets because we believe that technology does not see boundaries. And we truly launched ourselves to be a global company very early in our journey back in 2000. We started in 2008. By 2009, we said, hey, what the hell, we should just be a global company. It was not a thoughtful point. But I don't think the big decisions need to be thoughtful. I fundamentally believe it is the resolve that allows the big decisions to actually go through, not the thoughtfulness behind them. The small decisions should be thoughtful. Big ones should be based on some level of belief. And we've made many of those in our journey. The fact that we actually thought that India can actually do a technology company was not necessarily a thoughtful decision. It was our belief that India is ready for it. Similarly, as we went on and on and on, we launched Glance, which is our foray into AI, slightly before AI became mainstream. And we looked at this and said, can India build something in the world of AI? The thoughtful answer was that no. But I think we jumped into it, and we are starting to see the advantages of what it can do. So when we think about technology, and you'll see this running across a lot of the themes that I would talk about. When you think about technology, and you think about making decisions in the world of technology, you have to think about them differently than the way decisions are made in a different industry. The pace of innovation and the pace of movement far outpaces any other thing in the world of technology. Especially today, technology's cycle of change has come down from 10 years to 2 years, if that too. I think the technology change cycles are about a year right now. So therefore, as you make your annual plan, you are actually making a plan in a traditional world for 10 years. Every year is a 10-year change in today's world. And none of us are good enough to make a 10-year plan. Have never been good enough to make a 10-year plan. And so therefore, as you make your annual plans today, at least, you have to think very differently about those plans. A lot of what we have tried to do is to think of it that way. Today, our planning cycles are best case 3 months. Things change at the end of 3 months. We revisit them. If they don't change, we find it to be very lucky. But things are moving so rapidly that we think of our cycle as 3 months. Now that causes things like chaos in the company. It shows people, because we are all ushering from an era of, more structured, planned approach to this world. Suddenly people start to think that, look, we don't know what we are doing. That is true. We don't know what we are doing because the underlying technology goes through a change. So I think we are entering a very different era where how you manage people and how you manage technology and how you manage your planning has completely changed. Today we are one of the 15, maybe top 10 advertising stacks in the world. We are very proud of being able to do that from India. It's a core, pure technology innovation that we have tried to do. We somewhere compute over $10 billion of advertising on a daily basis. But the marvel in this is more than just the fact that we spend over $10 billion through our stack. The marvel in this is the fact that we are probably the first company to actually build a global technology from east to west. Most technology that you will see in the world comes from west to east. And that era needs to end at some point of time. And we feel very proud of the fact that we take the technology, build it first in India, and then take it globally. We are a big believer. Thank you. I'm a big believer of the thesis that our time is arriving where we should think about building technology in India, scaling it here, and then taking it to the globe. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But that's been our big belief. And we really take a lot of pride in making that happen. I'll give you a technology comparison to this. There are many stats that we sit with. But at the scale at which we function, these kind of scales, we do about little less than 100 billion transactions every day. That kind of scale is only matched by a few companies in the world. But we feel that today, both our technologists and the technology allows that to happen right from India. And therefore, our ability to think about global scale actually exists today. We also built Glance. And Glance has achieved phenomenal scale, and I'll talk about that in a bit. We are today one of the top 15 platforms on a monthly user basis in less than a few years. We get integrated into the platforms. Consumers use this across the globe. Many of you end up using this. And at that scale, what we are really trying to show, and I'll show you the product in a bit, because what is the fun of being a technologist if you don't really show what it can really do? So I'll get to that in a bit, but let me just set it up a little bit. With Glance, what we are really trying to do is to disrupt the world of shopping. We feel the shopping started with the big box commerce, that we've all seen, that took about 50 years of creation, development, and whatnot. Then came e-commerce. That era over the last 25 to 30 years of e-commerce, only one player from the offline commerce truly made it into the e-commerce world. Only one player, which is Walmart. Nobody else truly made it through at scale, so that you actually had new players in the e-commerce world. In between, there was social commerce. Nobody from the e-commerce world made it into the social commerce. As you make these big shifts, players are not able to get to the next stage. We think the era for AI commerce, especially using generative AI, is out there. The big difference in that is this generative AI commerce. By the way, the first era of offline big box retail took 50 to 75 years. The e-commerce era, for it to get to 20% of total commerce, took about 25 years. Our belief is AI commerce, which is the oncoming, it's a new tsunami, will take about 5 years to get to 20% of total commerce. So you would see logarithmic change in time scale as the new technologies come in. So we are playing in this era where the technology change and the adoption of it is significant and massive. So you don't really have too much time to plan. You don't really have too much time to essentially realize what's the right thing to do. You just have to go for it. So therefore, with Glance AI, we are truly building the world's first shopping agent. We're entering the agentic era. And we feel very excited about this new innovation. We're going to try and show this to you. So I'm going to actually have I don't know where my colleague is. Oh, there he is. I'm going to request Casey because he's going to operate for the next 3 to 5 minutes, the demo. But I'll try and walk you through this. Casey, if you can launch the phone. So what you would see is Glance as a platform is ushering commerce into the era of intelligence. In this era of intelligence, the intelligence is about you. So as you see that app out there, what you see in that app is trained on me. My phone, the app is trained on me. It means that the intelligence underlying the agent is built on me. The way we built this is to essentially leverage the most simplistic thing to train the model. The model actually gets trained using my selfie. Single selfie. So I take the selfie. It takes about 90 seconds for the model to train. In that 90 seconds, as the product takes my selfie, it understands 1,000 parameters about me. 1,000 parameters. It understands purely by my selfie what my age is. Of course, figures out gender. Figures out, bases my skin tone, where I'm from. Figures out which part of the world I live in. It gets access to probably the clothing that I'm wearing, starts to estimate what I may be like. You would be shocked at the amount of intelligence a single selfie carries. Let me try and show it to you. So if you launch the app, what you would see is that it starts to generate a real-time AI-led catalog for me. This is now generating in real time. What it is doing, it is now generating these looks for me, bases an understanding of what would look good on me. What you're seeing here is the first trained fashion model. This is only trained on fashion today. So if you swipe on this, it starts to generate these different looks. They're all generated in real time. It is using the underlying intelligence to say, okay, Naveen seems to be, middle-aged, would have been wanted to be younger, not true anymore. Middle-aged, seems to be from India, seems to have a certain trend on what he likes to wear and what he likes to be. When I started to use this, as you keep going, swiping right, as I started to use this, what really happened was I have had only 1 or 2 styles of fashion that I felt were right for me. Because that was the only thing I got exposed to. I had no ability to attempt and go beyond my limited boundaries. The fact is, the machine is now able to show me my own future. It is generating a future for me. It is generating a future to say, these are the things that you could look for. Now, it's not just good enough to show what it looks like. That's good because it's using some intelligence. I find myself, good looking in this, actually. But what is even better is that it actually uses the world as a market. It does not really care which brand it belongs to. So if Casey, you were to click on that image, what you would see is that it went across the world, every possible brand, and picked out the one that matches this the closest. It is not search. It is a specific product that I can buy from a specific store at a specific price point that would match my requirements. So if you hit that, it seems to come from the house of Rare, a brand that I actually like. It somewhere would have learned this, and all I need to do is to hit that buy button, and it is mine. Go back. it is now learning real time what are the things that I really like, and you can keep going. If you go down on any of these things, it is also showing you some similar looks. Clearly, this is not me. If you keep going down, hit on any of those tabs, what you would see, this is clearly not me, the model. But it says, style it on me. If you actually hit that button, it'll actually put that product back on me. Because it predicted the fact that you may be very close in the liking for that product, and therefore you would want it. Take me back to the presentation. So ladies and gentlemen, what we are really showing you is the power of intelligence brought into the world of shopping in an agentic manner that truly disrupts the way we believe the world would shop going forward, and we are trying to take this to the world. We just recently launched this in the US, and we are trying to figure out, we have about 5 million users using this agent today. The numbers are through the roof. Here's the beauty of this. The whole product and platform, go to the next slide. Whole product and platform is actually based on 3 layers of deep technology. The bottommost, we are the first company in the world to have created the foundation model for shopping. It is this deep understanding of shopping intelligence. The single output that you saw today was the model for fashion. We have the model for accessories and for housing and for cars and for travel and for everything. The model's getting trained as we speak. We're the first company in the world that has trained a foundation model for shopping. The second, what you see, is a user-level model. The user-level model is our aim in the world is to essentially train a model for 1 billion people, which means each one of the 1 billion people will have an agent who will help you shop whatever you want to shop. Because in the future, the machine must assist you in buying better, making better choices, better pricing, better brands, and explore the world differently. And the third is our own generative AI model, which basically generates these images that you are seeing in real time. We are very proud of the fact that today we are the most advanced generative AI experience creation model in the world at price points and at speeds that are not matched by anybody else. And if you put these 3 things together, the simplicity is what you see as the product output. But all of these 3 things are actually built in Bangalore. And that's what gives us the pride that, look, we can actually disrupt the way the world will shop going forward. And so we saw search get disrupted by GPT. We believe Glance AI will disrupt shopping. And that's what we are gunning for. And we feel things like this are now possible. Things like this are now possible. But the underlying thing in this is like, what is it that we are really doing in our company that we believe that we can actually make that happen? Because building in a generative AI application actually is very easy. Anybody can do it. But actually to try and build a category-defining generative AI or AI application has its own charm, and it is going to be difficult. So let me give you 2 or 3 thoughts that I sit with. The first one, in the world of AI, the first 3 applications will be the ones that will win. You're not going to essentially win across 20, 25 platforms. The first 3 will win. Why? Because intelligence has a barrier of entry that cannot be surpassed. There is a whole concept of velocity of model training. The velocity of model training is what is the single most vector we look at our company. What is the velocity of our model training? If the velocity of our model training is the highest in the world, we will win. Singular factor. Not the fact that ours is the best user experience. Our user experience can improve. Not the fact that ours is the most advanced model today. It does not matter because it takes only a month for the model to evolve to be better than somebody else. So it is actually a 100-meter sprint run like a marathon where the velocity of model training is the most powerful vector that you can go for. And so things that we really think about at the company, we think about product development to be very different today than it was ever before. We write code. Everything is starting to get automated. People make a mistake to say, generative AI can write the full code. That's not true. It can only write about 70 to 80% of the code. Most companies fail because they think generative AI will write all of it. It'll only write about 70%. So the 70% of the part of the code is actually easy. The last 20, 30% is the hard part. So must focus on the last 20 to 30%. Of course, we are completely cloud native. The big change that we have made is that we do not have large teams anymore. When Glance was launched, end to end, the team was 50 people. It's gained now in size. But when Glance was launched, it was just 50 people with about 20, 25 highest quality engineers. We cannot have average people anymore in the company. They must be fired. We need exceptional people. That is the only way to compete in this new world. It is easy to say we have implemented this now. That is why we feel we are able to pull some of these things too. Second, we believe reinvention is now part of our DNA, or it's a habit for us. We're very comforted in chaos. What is a chaos? What is settled feeling? Settled feeling is, oh, what you told me is a strategy that will stay for 3 years. That's a settled feeling. We know what we are doing. What is a chaotic feeling? We don't know what we are doing because it's changing too rapidly. Getting the organization to be comfortable with not knowing what they're doing at all points of time is in itself the new settled feeling. We live in chaos. We probably have reinvented ourselves in the last 17, 18 years, every 2 years. It is part of our DNA. We think that's the only possible way to survive in the world of technology. Otherwise, somebody is coming really fast at you. The third thing, as I said, we are moving from the world of software to the world of intelligence. As you move from there, you have to be very audacious, very big in the way you approach this. The reason is very simple. When you think 10x about anything that you're doing, that is the only way to safeguard this. We thought about launching Glance first as a local platform. It made no sense because my model training velocity was getting impacted. So therefore, we had to essentially say, make this a 10x opportunity because the only platforms that will win are the ones that will actually become very, very large. And therefore, we tried to push the envelope, become something that is, it's an uncomfortable place to be at all points of time, thinking about the 10xing what we are doing. The big bets, by the way, taking Glance global, saying, look, we are going to try and disrupt the world of shopping, it is not a safe bet. Not safe. But that is the bet that you got to go for because that is bold. But in the world of AI, if you don't do this, you're not actually going to win because the bigger the platforms, the faster the training, you're going to actually lose the whole thing. This is very important. You know, in the world of innovation, the role of the CEO is very different. The role of the CEO is that they have to drive the transformation. They are not a sponsor. There is this, if you go back to the books of leadership, the books of leadership suggest that you kind of allow for somebody else to drive the transformation. You kind of sit at the back and watch it. It is not going to happen in the world of technology. You have got to jump in and you got to believe that you are driving the innovation and the change because the innovation and change is central to your strategy. If that's not driven, it is not going to happen. Things like tracking, actual versus plan, that's crap. It doesn't work. In best case, you'll be not on the plan. Either you'll be zero or you'll be way beyond it. Either way, it makes no sense to try and track it. A lot of these things are important if you're truly trying to transform in this era of AI. You have to drive, as a CEO, you have to drive the discomforting culture across the organization, and you actually have to put your own head stake. That's what it means. Otherwise, we just saw the $1 trillion pay package get approved a day ago for Musk. It is basically him putting his neck on the line to say, I'm going to make this happen. Of course, he's going to get paid a little bit of money for that. But that's what's probably needed. And last but not the least, I only have 20 seconds left. Last but not the least, you've got to play to win. In this world, you cannot play to just defend. I am a kid who grew up in the 90s watching cricket. When you lost a few wickets, and you certainly lost Tendulkar, our team went into the defensive. You're going to lose anyway, you're just going to lose slow. The teams did not. There is this whole thesis of living dead. Companies and organizations end up being in this era and space of living dead. We are defending. We are defensive. You're now ushering yourself into the era of AI. None of that matters. You're going to be wiped out quite rapidly if you don't take this, convert the organization into an organization that is there to win. These are the things that we try to do. Some of them are working, some of them are not working. But at the same time, I believe that as an Indian company and as Indians, we have a huge opportunity in front of us. We have an opportunity to build products at rapid pace. We work really hard, guys. We as Indians work really hard. We have a very high level of pain tolerance that not many cultures have. The West does not have it anymore. It used to have it 30, 40 years ago. We are surrounded by a region on the Southeast Asian to Middle East to Eastern Europe to Africa, where organizations like ours, or a bunch of you out here, can build products and take them out there. Suddenly your market size becomes 10x. You can invest much more into your product, into your engineering. I think our time as Indian companies is here. And this tectonic shift with AI gives us a unique opportunity to come back into the play because the game has just become level playing. So with that, thank you so much for inviting me. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.